And a good morning to you. Happy Tuesday. Not quite as cold as it was yesterday, but a little nipply out there this morning, just in case you're keeping score. 48 degrees is what we've got here at our studios. It was 40 when I came in yesterday. And I'll be honest with you, yesterday afternoon when the clouds rolled in and the wind picked up, it was kind of crisp. Felt good. I'll take this. We've actually had a pretty decent spring. We had just a little bit of heat, but not much, and now we're kind of back. But 40-degree temperatures in the morning in May, I'll take that.
All day long.
Yeah, I'll take that.
We're next, let's see, this is what, Tuesday?
Mm-hmm.
I think like next week about this time is when it's going to start heating up a little bit.
That's okay. You're getting close to the you're getting close to the middle of May.
Sure.
I'll take that.
Sure.
That's okay. I got to have a little spring, a little fall. Usually we just have winter, and then we go straight into summer, and it goes way, way too early. So I'm glad to see a little cooler weather.
Oh, yeah.
If you did not have an opportunity to catch the show last night, you can go back and listen. We had Maydonian. Matt Eisenhower was on going into the Catawba County Sports Hall of Fame. And we also had Coach Joe Reich from Wingate University, and he tells some great stories. He talks about their primary recruiting area is within 2 hours of the school down in Union County.
Mm-hmm.
And they have had a ton of kids right up through the Catawba Valley, Lincoln County, Catawba County, on up into Caldwell County.
Oh, yeah.
And those kids have done well. So if you have an opportunity, he is so appreciative when he comes home. Great guy to have on the show, tells great stories. And I surprised for this morning, Joe is Frank's brother, Frank Reich, head coach of the Carolina Panthers.
So awesome.
And Joe was an old offensive lineman, but he's a long, lean guy. And I asked him last night, I said, who's older, you or Frank? And he said, Frank is but 3 years, but he's got more hair because I've been coaching longer.
Right.
And but just a very humble individual. And I did not realize this. When Frank got out of the NFL, 14 years in the NFL, he went to seminary and into the ministry for a little while. And then he decided he wanted to get into coaching. And he said that he called Joe and said, can I come volunteer for a year? So I got something to put on my resume and to get him started.
Besides the greatest comeback ever in NFL history.
Well, and so that's what he did. And
awesome.
and Joe tells a story. He said, he worked up top for us. And he said we would come in at halftime, and the things that he would see, his perception, what he could see, he said, my offense coordinator and I were like, where did he see that? And then when you go back and watch the film, he was dead on. He said it was amazing. He said, I had always hoped, because I asked him, I said, did you ever think that you and your brother would live this close?
Right.
And he said, no, I'd always hoped that maybe one day we would coach together again. Either me for him or him for me.
Right.
He said, but no, it's great having him from here. Those guys are from Pennsylvania. Their dad was a high school football coach. Their dad was an offensive lineman, and he played for a different head coach at Penn State, but the offensive line coach that he played for was a guy named Joe Paterno.
Right.
Okay?
Right. So the dad played before Paterno took over
That's
as
correct.
the head coach.
Yeah, in the 50s.
That's incredible.
Wait a minute, it gets better. Do you know who his dad had to block in practice? Guy went on and had a little career at the Los Angeles Rams, guy named Rosie Greer.
Oh, God.
I mean, it's a great story.
That is
and
good.
Juju did a great job. Juju does a lot of the booking. He gets these guys on.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, just a great story. But if you missed it, you might want to pick that one up, because it was really good. And like I say, we'll definitely have him on again. It's just a great show and a great guy. Don't know if my daughter Lindsay's on yet, but the Carolina Hurricanes back in action tomorrow night, 7:00, and they will play the New Jersey. Is it Generals? New Jersey Devils. Because they beat the New York Rangers is who they beat.
God, it's
and
awesome.
Then
when do you head down to a game?
We were going to try to go, but I can't quite pull it off in the middle of the week this week.
Right.
I'm going to be
That's
off.
so cool,
I've got a very important event I got to go to Friday. It's going to take up at least half my day. I've got a golf tournament I got to be in. So I got to get my priorities in order. Serena announces that she's pregnant with her second child.
Saw
I think
that last
she
night.
did retire. Didn't she kind of retire from active play after the first one? She came back and played a little bit.
That's right, and then just kind of
yeah.
But I mean, hey, her and her sister have been playing a long time and had storied careers is not even accurate, right? It doesn't even appropriately.
I wouldn't want to
describe.
fight her.
Yeah,
I would not want to fight her. She is a beast.
Well, you know what? They worked at their craft. They were very serious about it. They're fierce competitors. Some people want athletes to be perfect, and they are not.
Mm-hmm.
None of us are.
Mm-hmm.
I think what we try to do is strive. We all, whether we're playing a sport or we're doing what we do or who we are, we try to, for the most part, strive for excellence instead of perfection. I think if, you use that kind of mindset, it's a little bit more forgiving when people, it's like last night at a Little League game. I kind of, there's an interference call, and umpire looks at me and I said, hey, he can't interfere with him catching the ball. He contacted him. He said, no, that runner has a right to the baseline. Well, that's not accurate. There's no such thing as a baseline except home to first. All that other stuff is just, it's kind of repeating things that you've heard. So, no, he contacted him, delayed that ball, the runner's out, and that's it. No, Coach, he's got that baseline if he wants it. Call it home plate umpire.
And where
from second to third.
Second to third.
Shortstop was interfered. Trent was interfered. I moved Trent to short. Your
mm-hmm.
nephew for a couple innings and get some other kids in the game. And normally Trent plays second, right? So I moved him over. No big deal. Home plate umpire come out there. He said, Coach, he didn't touch him. Like, you can't say that. Yes, he did. About knocked him down. This guy's like, the boy runs as big as Lanny somehow in the sixth grade.
Mm-hmm.
And Trent,
he's 38 pounds soaking wet.
Trent made the play of the night, though, last night. We tried to pick Gal first. Trent's playing second. Kid takes off. It's in the last inning. We're up 2 after being down by 1. First baseman, Levi French, who, when he gets to Maiden High, this kid is a football, basketball, baseball kid. He's pure athleticism. It's phenomenal. Wyatt French was his brother that was a lineman at Maiden that went to, it may have been Mount Olive. I can't remember which college it was.
Okay.
Methodist, maybe. Methodist. And ended up being in the combines and had a chance to potentially be drafted. I think Wyatt probably didn't because he's not very tall, right? He's like 5'8", 5'9", I think maybe 5'10". But the point is Levi is a phenomenal athlete. It'll be enjoyable to, watch a local kid. He's very, very athletic, very skilled for a young kid, but his heart and his work ethic, you've seen him play football. His work ethic is just even more impressive. So that's cool. Anyway.
Good morning, Milton, my wife. Good morning. It really needs to warm up. I need the pool open. I finish up next week. Hey, I know my place.
Javier.
I know my place.
Javier.
They allow me to live there, pay all the bills, and do all the work. I'm a fortunate man. I am blessed. I am blessed. Let me just go ahead and tell you. I am blessed. This came up this morning, and you wonder when it was going to happen. Ohio gambling regulators on Monday instructed the state's licensed sports books to halt betting on college baseball games involving Alabama after suspicious wagering activity was detected on the Crimson Tide's game against LSU on Friday. It came from the Ohio Casino Control Commission, and it said that the acceptance of any wagers on University of Alabama baseball effective immediately. He wrote that the emergency order was in response to a report from an independent integrity monitor. That it's a firm that monitors the betting of markets, issued an alert to its sportsbook clients regarding suspicious wagering. Because there's no national gaming regulator, a halt on wagering typically happens on a state-by-state basis. Now, ESPN reached out to Ohio. Now, this just happened in Ohio, okay, just in the Ohio sports book. LSU led Alabama 8-1 after 7 innings and held off a late rally by the Crimson Tide for an 8-6 victory. The Tigers were around a -245 favorite over the Crimson Tide in the game. Now, Alabama plays Vanderbilt on Thursday. Now, I am not a gambler, okay? If I'm gambling, I'm betting with you for Team A to beat Team B. Maybe take the spread. That's as complicated as I get. I have no idea what this means that the Tigers were a minus 245 favorite. I'm guessing that if I bet, and I don't know, if I bet $1 and Alabama and LSU won, I would lose 245 or something. I don't know how that works. So if somebody knows how that works, tell me. Now, here's the thing. It's always going to be there. It's going to happen. Go ahead and get ready for it because that's just the way it is.
They're going to reach, and it's unfortunate, but people are motivated by different factors and certain circumstances and areas in their life. And while people have their feelings about betting and things like that, I'm kind of like, well, people can kind of do what they want to do, and as long as it's not hurting or hindering others, then it's.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean from a physical or even a psychological standpoint, right? You kind of have that freedom to navigate and do what you need to do. The issue I have with being able to bet in sports that are supposedly amateur is this very thing. The problem is when these players in college are getting paid. Okay, now that kind of skews everything to how betting works out because now it's based on other factors that are not in control of the betting. Now, did someone reach somebody that was dropping a bet? Who knows? Did somebody reach a player or someone that has influence over a game? For us to say that it doesn't happen or hasn't happened, that's probably not accurate.
Right.
I'm not accusing anyone at Alabama. I know nothing about this. I hope everything is okay and on the up and up, but it is concerning. But it's like anything else. You're going to have bad actors in anything, and you just have to, like you said, you have a monitor, and they have to be able to see things that, and just deal with it however they deal with it. It's
and
unfortunate.
I found this out, okay? Here's the deal. On that game, you would have had to have bet $245 to win 100 because they were a negative 245.
Oh, because of the ratio.
Right.
I understand.
So if they're a plus 150, for example, you would wager 100 to win 150. If I'm reading this right, so I don't know how if a team is a plus 120, the payout would be $120 for every $100 you wager.
That makes sense.
Okay, so I just saw the thing. I just thought it was funny that this was Ohio that called this. And I don't know what did it say. I don't know how many states now have sports books, but I just thought it was a little odd that Ohio was the one that called this one out. But it's going to happen. You're going to see betting lines and betting windows in stadiums. And there's always. Even before they did all this, there was no problem, and if you didn't know somebody, it was easy enough to find somebody if you wanted to place a wager on a game.
Sure.
Okay? It was just that simple.
Yeah, local stuff, that was kind of behind the scenes, whatever.
Yeah, always.
Yeah.
And here's our resident gambler. Andrew had already answered that. I just didn't see it. You have to wager $245 to win 100. A minus 245 is a pretty heavy favorite in baseball. The larger the point spread, the higher the money line is. They're directly correlated with each other. Okay, so you basically what would happen is you would not bet 245 to win 100. That's not good math.
Yes.
Just in case you're wondering. Let me take a break. We'll come back. We'll break down some draft that happened over the weekend. Thanks for joining us here on a Tuesday.
Whether Whether it's a sit-down meal or a call-in for the drive-thru, Brookwood Cafe and Catering is the answer. A variety of meats, vegetables, and desserts cooked daily, or a hot sandwich from the grill, they have what you're looking for to satisfy your taste buds. If you need catering from 5 to 500, Brookwood has you covered as well. Stop by Brookwood Cafe and Catering at 202 Providence Mill Road in Maiden. Don't forget breakfast daily till 11 a.m. Open Tuesday 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., Wednesday through Saturday 6 a.m. till 8 p.m., and Sunday from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Call 828-428-8944 to place your order today.
If you ask around, you'll find Burke Mortuary has a reputation for excellence and commitment to value. They've built a reputation of trust for more than 35 years. Burke Mortuary is proud to offer personal attention, meaningful tributes, and the area's most affordable prices. They're also proud to offer you beautiful, state-of-the-art facilities. It's the perfect place to honor your loved one. So when choosing a funeral home, the choice is easy. Choose Burke Mortuary with locations in Maiden and Newton.
Covenant Church began as a vision of just over 100 people in 1984. Since then, Covenant Church has grown and currently located at 2168 Gastonia Highway in Lincoln. The Sunday schedule includes early morning worship at 8:30, Sunday school at 9:45, and morning worship at 10:45. Their ministries extend beyond Sunday. Visit their website at www.covenantchurch.church to see all they have to offer, and better yet, stop by and see for yourself. Covenant Church may be just what you're looking for a new church home. First Federal Savings Bank has been serving Lincoln County since 1940. And as it has been from the beginning, customer service is a priority to First Federal Savings Bank. They want to get to know you by name. First Federal Savings Bank has the convenience, the products, and the services that the larger banks have, but with hometown people that you see throughout your community. Stop in and visit one of their 4 convenient locations and see what First Federal Savings Bank has to offer you. Member FDIC, an equal housing lender.
Untangling your headphones, finding the right remote, saying goodbye to your favorite shirt that hasn't fit in 10 years. Why are simple things sometimes so complicated? Thankfully, with Auto Owners, insurance doesn't have to be one of them. Auto Owners works with independent agents who live in your community and answer when you call, so you can worry about more important things, like finding a new favorite shirt. That's simple human sense.
Call Mooney Insurance in Maiden or East Lincoln Insurance in Denver, or visit mooneyinsurance.com. Stifel Nicholas now has an office in your community. Stifel Nicholas is a full-service organization offering a wide range of investment vehicles and services. These include money market funds, CDs, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, annuities, retirement plans, and managed accounts, to name a few. Our financial advisors will sit down with you and help you tailor an investment plan, explaining strategies and investments which may help you achieve your personal goals. Call 4 Rembert today at 828-624-7300. Stifel Nicholas, member SIPC, and the New York Stock Exchange. Welcome back. Glad to have you here on a Tuesday morning. I had to make a grocery store run this morning. When Food Line opened up. Addison ate my last 8 scramblers, like toaster strudels.
Oh, yeah.
And she came in yesterday hungry, and she said, "Can I have these last 2?" And I'm like, "Well, sure. Food Line's open. I'll get some more." So I had to go up there and get some
7
water.
7 a.m.?
Huh?
7 a.m.?
Yeah. I wish they opened at 6, but they opened at 7.
Whoa.
So I went there and got some of that. We needed some water. I got a case of water. I got some Robbie Diet citrus tea.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he put me on the citrus tea.
Yeah, that's his favorite.
And then I wasn't disappointed this time, because I was the last time I went up there craving some fresh fruit. They had no cantaloupe, no watermelon, and they cut it there. So they did have fruit cups this morning, so I got me some watermelon and cantaloupe. So that kind of got me started. And, of course, had to restock. Pepsi products are on sale in the can, 3 for $12, which is a deal. Because most of the time they're $7.99, $8.99. So I picked up a couple more cases. I got plenty of room in here on the shelf. So when I was up there, I saw Trent's daddy, Clay.
Oh, great American.
Clay was getting some stuff, and I had a buggy full of stuff. And I said, I don't buy groceries for the house. These groceries are for the shop. That's where I live most of the time. So I make sure I got food to eat up here. And Addison always comes by when she's hungry, because she knows she can get some food here as well. Impressions from the draft.
Yeah.
I told, let's see. Andrew says, I promise you, Andrew doesn't gamble. I'm way too tight for that. Okay, well, you knew way too much about it. That's all I'm going to say. So anyway, what your initial thoughts on the draft? I told Juju last night, I thought there was no stellar talent out there to me that just jumped off the board. But I thought, all in all, it was a really good draft.
Oh, yeah.
Most of the teams that I could tell, and I haven't gotten down in the solid details of it, but most of the teams did not reach. They went out, got pieces they needed.
Yeah.
You could kind of see they had a plan. And of all the drafts that I've watched over the past few years, this was the one that surprised me the most because – it actually looked like most of these teams had a plan, had something in mind, a vision, and actually went out there and tried to build on that vision.
Well, I'm going to tell you this. This was the best draft I have ever watched, okay?
And for the two teams that I follow, I thought it was really good.
Oh, it was. In years past, and we talk about style versus substance, I felt like the draft – in years past was all about the style and the players. A lot of them were stylistic former players, right? Mm-hmm. There were people that, may be really athletic but just maybe not good football players, right? And you say, well, what does that even mean? Well, I mean, this year when I watched the draft, I felt like three things. Number one, there was substance to the draft. Mm-hmm. Number two, the players that were chosen and part of the draft, regardless of the round – especially the first three, were of very high-quality individuals. Now, there's some kids that, this kid did some drag racing or this kid – okay. So, young person being the –
kids still kids.
Right. So you have to be immature before you can be mature. Either these things life-threatening or life-altering? No. Okay. And then, number three, I felt like the teams, like you said, were more in tune of doing their homework and addressing the matters most important to their organization or needs instead of saying, he's the best player, we got to take him.
Now, let me ask you this.
Crazy.
Last night, Juju made an observation that I hadn't thought about.
Right.
One of the things that's happened inside the NFL is a number of teams have gotten really younger at GMs.
Yes.
It's a different perspective.
Yes.
And he said, think about this. He said, a lot of those GMs grew up playing Madden, and they look at things differently from how they used to.
Their perspective is different, right? When you sit in a different seat, in theory, or your perception of things is likely going to end up being the reality when you're in charge of what's to come. But what's so interesting, is the way that these players and the way they stacked up in the draft. Now, you had mentioned something about stellar talent. There really wasn't. I see things with three of them that maybe a little differently than what you see. I thought that the Anderson kid from Alabama, all right, is stellar, and the two kids from Georgia, all right, the defensive tackle and the outside linebacker. I think those three are stellar. Bryce Young has all of the attributes that are labeled with someone that have the potential to reach a very high level. What is the issue with Bryce? He's not 6'2". Okay, the world is a little –
he's just thin. I mean, he's just slight.
He is. The ability to avoid contact decreases drastically in the NFL as compared to college. Now, does he give you the best look at what a potential NFL quarterback will look like? I think he does, and the kid from Kentucky. But it's in two different ways. Bryce went up against NFL-type defenses week in and week out, and it shows you how he can read. Yes, he had a very good offensive line, but he also played against very, very, very good defenses and defensive ends and interior people, okay? Forget about the linebackers. I'm talking about the three the defensive tackles, the three techniques, the noses, whatever, okay, and the rush ends. He showed us, all of us, why he is so dynamic and why he's so good. The issue is the chance of being hit greatly increases, and your ability to get away from that greatly decreases when you go to that next step. The Levis kid gives you probably the best look of toughness and mentality because of the team he played on, the success that he had, being injured most of the year with a very painful injury. Turf toe is an awful injury.
Cut it off.
Yeah, it's an awful injury. You know, it's not like it's not gout, but it's the sensitivity of it is similar if anyone's ever had severe turf toe, which that young man had. Okay, but his ability to channel things and see, you know, the field for what it is, to be able to read defenses, his IQ is very high. This was a great pickup in the second round for, you know, for a team, right? Mm-hmm. You know, and I think the jury's going to be out on the kid from Florida. Mm-hmm. And I think it's going to be out on the kid from Ohio State, because processing information at a much faster rate of things based on disguises and just, you know, the ability to manipulate, it's tenfold at the next level.
Well, and that was the biggest attribute that Bryce Young had going for him that kind of helped override his size issue. Was the ability to process, which you got to have it in the NFL. Yeah. When we left last night, Juju called me just as soon as we pulled out, and he said, "Are you listening to the NFL channel?" And I said, "No." He said, "They're doing an interview with Bill Polian, and they're talking about the draft, and they're talking about him." And I listened to part of it. Of course, I don't live far from home, so I didn't get to listen to it all. But when I got in the car this morning, it was on again. And I listened to him and actually sat out there a little bit. And Bill Polian, one of the things he said that kind of put Bryce Young a little ahead of C.J. Stroud was how he played this year, and it was not a typical Alabama offensive line. They weren't as strong offensively up front.
Right. A little more inexperienced.
Which showed a little bit more of what Bryce Young could accomplish because he didn't have that tremendous – you know.
No, and I think there's a lot of – I mean, that is a very good, very insightful point, right? I mean, you know, Bill Polian. You know, and that's –
think what the Panthers could have been if Jerry Richardson had been smart enough and just, you know, don't put one of my kids in there and just left him alone.
Right. But what's most fascinating to me is the way that metrics are used to measure quarterbacks, because based on last year's draft, and it was so disappointing. But, you know, based on last year's draft, you know, the people that were talking about how good, you know, Zach Wilson and Trey Lance were like, they can't miss. And I think that's very unfair to put that kind of, you know, that kind of stipulation on young players that have not really played in a proven system or against top-tier competition. You know, you want to be able to forecast and project things. I thought that was really unfair to those two players because they are phenomenal talents, very good people, young people, very, very good. But having ordained them the way they did, and to think that their athleticism, it's like somebody says, well, the best players have to play. That's not true. Or pick up the best player in the draft if he's available. Why? Then you're just putting people out there with talent. And the whole goal is not only to win games, but to win championships. Well, that is a formula.
But you got to look behind that and also see, to me, how do they mesh with the personality and chemistry that we already have on the team?
Look, there are teams that you coached and I've coached in the past or even played on that were very highly talented that could not function as a unit, right? The Navy SEAL chart, if you've never seen that or haven't, you know, just messing around or whatever, type that in and find out what their criteria are. You know, number one is accountability. You have to be accountable for yourself and for your other, you know, forget the level of how well you shoot, how well you do that. Are you accountable? Can we depend on you? That's number one. It's no different when you go to war on a field, right? And trying to get people that are stylistic in nature, that only see, you know, the top side, you know, it's incredibly difficult, and it keeps really good teams from being championship teams because of the mindset, you know, and the constant hindrance of best player. But that does not win championships.
Right.
That's why Ferrari, you know, you can't drive it 100 miles an hour all the time. You know, you have to slow down. It needs a braking system when you come to a stoplight, right? It needs, you know, appropriate, you know, shelter with the windows and air conditioner. Everything's got to work together. I thought this year's draft really encapsulated all of those things where each team, whether you agreed with who they took or not or whatever, they were still giving the appearance that they were doing all they could do to make their organization the best it could be with what they've got to work with and trying to win a championship. I don't think there was any team. The Eagles had 2 of the best defensive picks I've ever seen in pro football.
Everybody thinks that they had one of the best drafts ever.
They got the 2 kids from Georgia. I mean, it was incredible how they did that. And then, how about the Texans? How exciting was that? They take the number 2 pick. They take the kid from Alabama. I mean, the kid from Ohio State, right? Quarterback. And then all of a sudden they turn around and who they get? Will Anderson, right? Back to
Trade
back.
up to get him.
Back to back. That was incredible.
Let me give you those Philadelphia picks.
Yeah.
Jalen Carter, defensive tackle.
Yeah.
Number 9 pick. A second first-round pick at number 31 was Nolan Smith, outside linebacker.
Yeah,
both those guys are
incredible
Georgia.
talent. God.
Tyler Steen was the second pick in the 3rd round, offensive tackle.
Yeah.
Alabama.
Yeah.
They got Sidney Brown in the 3rd round out of Illinois, safety. Kaylee Ringo in the 4th round, a corner out of Georgia. Tanner McKee, a quarterback out of Stanford in the 6th round, and Moro Ajmo out of Texas, a defensive end in the 7th round. Now, I'm going to tell you one of the most confusing for a lot of people, and let me make sure I've got this right and I got the right team. I think I do.
Who is it?
No, that's not the right team. I got to think. Where did Stetson Bennett go? Rams. He went to the Rams. That's where he went. A lot of folks were saying they couldn't believe Stetson Bennett went ahead of Max Duggar, the kid from TCU, because of what he accomplished at quarterback on a team like TCU. But here's the thing. Stetson Bennett may get an opportunity to play because he'll be playing behind kid that came from Detroit, won a Super Bowl. Stafford.
Georgia
Matthew
boy.
Stafford.
Yeah.
But Stafford will get hurt. He's older. He will probably get hurt as the season goes on, and he may have an opportunity. And also, the Rams took Nick Hampton in the 5th round, outside linebacker out of App State.
Oh, yeah.
They took Davis Allen, tight end out of Clemson in the 5th round. And, you know, one of the things that – and Ethan Evans, that's the punter out of Wingate.
Yes.
He's the punter out of Wingate in the 7th round. Right. And he has got a huge, huge leg and a big kid too. He'll come down and make a tackle, I'm pretty sure, at 6'5", 220, 230. But, you know, you take some of these kids that went to the Rams and you put them with the coaching staff and the personality of a team like the Rams, you just don't know what they can build. It's like the Niners, San Francisco 49ers or another team. They just look for guys that fit their system.
Well, also fit the environment, right? They're out in Los Angeles. You know, you can take a guy that's, you know, from the Midwest that is or played in Midwest that is a fine young man that had a tremendous career, you know, did a lot of things right, okay? Or you can take the 88-year-old Stetson Bennett, you know, whose frontal lobe is fully developed, okay, and put him out there in L.A., and he's likely to be okay with that. So, and not saying that the other kid's immature. I'm just saying there's a lot of factors that go in. Again, it's not just who's the best player or who was the most productive on the field. You have to be able to handle the environment in which you are placed. Because in most cases, we have no control over our environment. How we handle our environment is what we got control over, right? If we're not in charge of everything, we're not in control of the environment. And so we have to pick and choose how we handle, you know, the place that we're in, right? And you know, it just makes a lot of sense that you would take somebody like a Stetson Bennett who, you know, is very mature. He's not a prototypical NFL quarterback by any means, but we're seeing less and less of the prototypical and more of, you know, like you said, there's a lot of different looks at things now than what they used to be.
The NFL for so many years, and it's one of the things that drives me nuts in anything that I touch or am associated with, I don't want to do something because that's what we've always done.
Yeah, that's the first.
I can't deal with that. Now, if it's working great, it's not broke, then we don't need to fix it.
Right.
But if you're struggling with it, doing the definition of insanity is I'm trying to do the same thing over and over and expecting a different result, then you need to change things. You can't stay in that mold and that mindset that we're going to be okay.
You have to attack that mindset, though. When people tell you, well, this is the way we've always done it. When I went to Madison County, that's what I was told by the athletic director. And I said, that's why you guys have always sucked.
Yeah.
I said, so I'm going to come in here, we're going to do things a little different. Now, am I right and you're wrong, or everybody's wrong? I'm not saying that. But we got to change things up. We have to do this.
It's apparent this isn't working,
this
so we got to
we don't need to be
something.
practicing on Tuesday morning at 6 o'clock because everybody wants to go hunting, that evening, okay? We got the rest of our life to pull the trigger, okay? Let's pull the trigger in high school football.
Well, it's about
priorities.
Priorities. That's exactly right.
I don't want to come in
Get
here
them in order
and get nothing out of a 6 a.m. practice with a bunch of high school kids that don't want to be there at 5:30 in the morning that, 3 or 4 of them excited about going hunting, or, I don't hunt, so I don't fully understand why you would want to do that, okay? But, I'm not Debbie Downer. I'm just giving an example of what I faced at a very young age in that mindset. Locally, too, in several areas. When I worked locally, you can't do that. We've done it. I said, I'm sorry.
You got the wrong guy.
I am not listening to that.
Yeah, you got the wrong guy if that's what you're expecting from me.
I'm going to give you resistance on this every day in whatever way I can until the mindset's changed.
Yeah.
I had to do that with the baseball program at Maiden, with the kids. The first meeting we had, they hadn't won many games and never had a JV team. I told them in the library, I said, if you don't think we can win a state championship this year, you need to get up and leave. Hell, I had 3 kids get up and leave, and they were right.
Well, if they didn't believe in the vision.
But the point is you have to install the mindset, and if you pound something enough, most coaches, whether it be high school or middle school, they pound conference championship. That's just a place you can go. If you set the bar as high as you possibly can and say whatever we got to do to get to the opportunity to go play for that championship, not conference championship, then is what needs to be the focus. And anytime you hear somebody say, well, I think we need to celebrate the successes that we've had and, don't worry about what we didn't get, that's not true. That's called settling, okay? You can be happy but never satisfied until you reach the pinnacle.
Absolutely. I've always said that.
And I think that is – and what I saw out of – circling back to the draft, right? What I saw out of these players in the draft is they were very happy individuals, very happy people. Even the kids that didn't get drafted that are going to be signed as free agents. I'm seeing that out of this generation of kid that they are generally happy people, but they're not satisfied. They want to go to the next step. They don't want to say, well, I just want to get paid and play 5 years, and I'm out.
And there's not to say that there aren't some of those out there.
Right.
They are.
Right.
They are.
But overall, when you look at the quality of the player and the quality of the person that they are, this draft was just different.
Yep.
And I thought that the analysis was much better. It wasn't near as annoying this year as it was the last 2 years. It was almost annoying because they wanted to talk about how talented somebody was instead of the true measures that they brought to help that organization be successful. This year, that was not talked about. They were talking about what a great talent the player was, the attributes that they had that went into combination with their talent and making that, and that's why these organizations pick these kids. It was a phenomenal draft. I got to tell you, I enjoyed this draft very, very much.
I agree.
And I'm very excited about the new look and the new players in the NFL, and I hope that they stay focused on what they do and play in the sandbox and the opportunity to play in the sandbox they're played in instead of worrying about things that keep people from maybe being as engaged.
Don't worry about things you don't control. Very easy. Take a break. Back in a moment.
Whether it's a sit-down meal or a call-in for the drive-thru, Brookwood Cafe and Catering is the answer. A variety of meats, vegetables, and desserts cooked daily or a hot sandwich from the grill, they have what you're looking for to satisfy your taste buds. If you need catering from 5 to 500, Brookwood has you covered as well. Stop by Brookwood Cafe and Catering at 202 Providence Mill Road in Maiden. Don't forget breakfast daily till 11 a.m. Open Tuesday 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., Wednesday through Saturday 6 a.m. till 8 p.m., and Sunday from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Call 828-428-8944 to place your order today.
If you ask around, you'll find Burke Mortuary has a reputation for excellence and commitment to value. They've built a reputation of trust for more than 35 years. Burke Mortuary is proud to offer personal attention, meaningful tributes, and the area's most affordable prices. They're also proud to offer you beautiful, state-of-the-art facilities. It's the perfect place to honor your loved one. So when choosing a funeral home, the choice is easy. Choose Burke Mortuary with locations in Maiden and Newton.
Covenant Church began as a vision of just over 100 people in 1984. Since then, Covenant Church has grown and currently located at 2168 Gastonia Highway in Lincoln. The Sunday schedule includes early morning worship at 8:30, Sunday school at 9:45, and morning worship at 10:45. Their ministries extend beyond Sunday. Visit their website at www.covenantchurch.church to see all they have to offer, and better yet, stop by and see for yourself. Covenant Church may be just what you're looking for a new church home. First Federal Savings Bank has been serving Lincoln County since 1940. And as it has been from the beginning, customer service is a priority to First Federal Savings Bank. They want to get to know you by name. First Federal Savings Bank has the convenience, the products, and the services that the larger banks have, but with hometown people that you see throughout your community. Stop in and visit one of their 4 convenient locations and see what First Federal Savings Bank has to offer you. Member FDIC, an equal housing lender.
Untangling your headphones, finding the right remote, saying goodbye to your favorite shirt that hasn't fit in 10 years. Why are simple things sometimes so complicated? Thankfully, with auto owners, insurance doesn't have to be one of them. Auto Owners works with independent agents who live in your community and answer when you call, so you can worry about more important things, like finding a new favorite shirt. That's simple human sense.
Call Mooney Insurance in Maiden or East Lincoln Insurance in Denver, or visit mooneyinsurance.com. Stifel Nicholas now has an office in your community. Stifel Nicholas is a full-service organization offering a wide range of investment vehicles and services. These include money market funds, CDs, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, annuities, retirement plans, and managed accounts, to name a few. Our financial advisors will sit down with you and help you tailor an investment plan, explaining strategies and investments which may help you achieve your personal goals. Call 4Rembert today at 828-624-7300. Stifel Nicholas, member SIPC, and the New York Stock Exchange. Welcome back. Winding up here on a Tuesday morning. Still got 48 degrees, sunshiny skies. I don't think the wind's like it was yesterday. The wind was kind of brutal.
It's got a high wind warning in the truck for today.
Really? I can't tell it's even blowing out there yet this morning.
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting because it did a lot of the mountain counties, but also had like Catawba, Lincoln, and Caldwell on there. So
maybe it's the Catawba Mountains.
It may be.
Let's see.
Catawba Mountains. What is that out there where Mom and Dad used to live out there in Deerfield? Baker's Mountain. And then Little Mountain over here.
And don't even get me started on Baker's Mountain, because Baker's Mountain really bothers me because they've went up with the housing development up one side of it.
Yes,
it looks
that's
awful.
on the Deerfield side. I'm going to tell you what,
awful.
That is a phenomenal state park, though, just to go visit and walk around. And, they got some good trails, and it's local, but it's got some – you get up there, man, it's got some pretty good elevation.
Yeah.
Where I grew up on we moved up here when I was like 11 or 12, but on Flat Gap Mountain, it was right beside Middle Springs Mountain. It doesn't take, going up in Valdez, it doesn't take much to get, and before you know it, you're kind of up. And
I
have
have
a pretty good spot.
I don't want to spend the money, but I have often thought about moving my FM translator antenna to the top of Baker Mountain.
Yeah.
Because our biggest area is Lincoln, western end of Lincoln County, and Catawba, and that would really get me up there high. I mean, because we're at 200 feet on the tower that I'm on. We'd also looked at Little Mountain, which is another one.
Oh, yeah.
It's just so far east
it
that
is. Baker's Mountain would hit it pretty good, though, because you would still get – it would still do it, because it's on the way to West Lincoln, right? Platts, all that kind of thing. But you got a lot of uninterrupted signal there.
I wish I could find a taller tower here closer, but there's not any. The way you can tell if a tower is over 200 feet, it's got lights. You have to have lights.
That's the
Lincoln is 204 and has to have lights just because it's 204 wherever Yellow Inch Tower is. Milton said Young is almost petite. Juju showed me a picture last night of Young standing beside an offensive lineman, and it looked like a kid. Yeah. I mean, it really did.
I mean, it is what it is. And so, Milton's got I know where he's going with this. It is concerning.
Can you design a scheme to protect him?
I mean, there was a reason Doug Flutie, went to Canada for a while.
Flutie could play in today's NFL.
And
nobody be bothered by it.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. There's more of a general bias because of size. And at that time, the prototypical quarterback, which was, hand it off, drop back in the pocket, those kind of things. The transition was being made from a wing T style offense, with the West Coast offense in the early 80s that still had the fullback and offset, tailback, right? And, to more of a split back look, true split back look, and then to a single back. So it's gonna be really interesting to see how this works out.
Andrew said that talking about testing them, they don't give them the Wonderlic test for no reason. Well, the new test for quarterbacks is one of reaction time, to be able to read and react. And Bryce Young was off the chart.
Yeah, and so was Levis. And, there were some concerns. I saw, and I'm not sure which test it was, but I saw where the kid from Ohio State scored a little lower on that part. But, he is – I got to tell you, Lane, he's got some pretty good attributes. And, obviously he was a first-round, pick.
C.J. Stroud?
Yeah. Stroud, yeah. I'm just wondering, if it's more of a, analysis of the kind of the way they did Trey Lance and Zach Young because of who he played against, but he played well against Georgia, which basically is an NFL defense, right? So, I don't know.
But the other side of it is, especially if you're taken early in the draft, you're not playing with an Ohio State offensive line and receivers when you get to the NFL. That's always the other side of it.
Yeah.
It's always been the knock. One of the reasons that Bryce Young was kind of evaluated a little bit different because, as Bill Polian said, they didn't have that typical Alabama offensive line this year.
Yeah,
you see what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying.
So many times these quarterbacks, especially, to me, here again, Stetson Bennett has the best chance to succeed because he didn't go to a underlying, bottom feeder in the NFL. Yeah, he played in the SEC, but he's going to come closer to playing around the same talent at the Rams as he did in Georgia as somebody going to, well, I can't say Detroit because they're coming up, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You've got to reevaluate, Andrew made the comment with DJ. He didn't have the weapons around him at Clemson that he did before, or that a Deshaun had, those kind of things. And Milton is exactly right. Ohio State quarterbacks have not been very successful in the NFL. Neither have Alabama quarterbacks.
But this is the thing. I think they've unnecessarily had expectation put on them because of the program they play in.
That's correct.
Instead of being able to project
based on their abilities.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the thing with A.J. McCarron, he's tall. He had all the physical attributes and the mental approach, to be, some type of successful NFL quarterback. But who he went to play for and who was in front of him, there was no opportunity there for him to take it to the next level. Now, does that mean that he should have played right away or been given – no, that's not what I mean. But, there was a lot of things that he did in his, 4 years at Alabama, or 5, but 3 where he was really, intricate part of things is from a distribution standpoint and playing against, SEC defenses every week, SEC DBs. I think if one thing was evident in this draft, Lanny, it was, we didn't really see – nobody really said, well, these quarterbacks premier, but yet a bunch of them were taken early.
Mm-hmm.
And how many corners were drafted in the importance of that position?
Well, the thing, the problem that hurt this year's quarterbacks, first-round quarterbacks, the ones that really had the measurable skills didn't fit the size mold.
That's
okay. And the quarterbacks that did fit the size mold didn't have the numbers and the skills to go along with it. So that's where the difference came in.
Except with the exception of Levis.
Well, and I'm going to tell you what I've heard, and then and this should be a big one with you. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you've heard this. One of the things that I've heard, and it came from Cowherd, was a lot of franchises, GMs, got turned off by Levis' kind of attitude or persona at the draft, a little too over-the-top, arrogant kind of thing, and they were looking for a little more humble. They say that's why Anthony Richardson moved up, because he was a – and a lot of it comes from that interview process and how you handle and carry yourself. And, I know you don't agree with Cowherd when he says, I want my quarterback to look like a quarterback, I want my president to look like a president. I get all that. But at the same time, when you start talking about – that's one of the things that hurt a Baker Mayfield.
Well,
that's
is.
One of the,
But do you want – this is the whole point. Do you want your surgeon to be really nice and have great bedside manner and –
I just want him to be good at what he does.
Be okay.
Yeah.
Or do you want the best surgeon in the world looks at you and says, there's a 50% chance you're going to die. But I'm the best surgeon in the world, and I'm going to do my best to fix this. Yep. What do you want?
That's what I want.
Do you want somebody that makes you feel good?
Honesty.
I'm so confident going into this. Or do you want somebody that tells you the truth?
The only bedside manner I want is the guy that tells me the truth. That's you don't have to be nice about it.
But remember, when they go interview these young men, they are still, most of them with the exception of like Stetson Bennett, who's like, 20 whatever, 8 whatever, I'm kidding. Most of these still don't have a tremendous amount of life experience. So, the possibility that Levis, and I don't know him, I'm just giving maybe another way to look at this.
Mm-hmm.
The potential that Levis is just so arrogant or he came across this way, he may not have been prepped appropriately. He may have been trying to display confidence and show that he is,
he just
but
didn't do it the right way.
Wrong way.
Yeah.
He has no life experience, okay? And it's about growth and development. When I get a player in that seems a little arrogant or this, that, and the other, I get to know them. And if I need to cut the head off the snake, I go back to the old verbiage, look, you're not the best player I've ever coached or the worst. You fall somewhere in between. So, no, you're not special, okay? Right. But we're going to try to make you that way and try to help you achieve that. And if it's a kid that doesn't have a whole lot of confidence but, is trying to grow into that, it's like, hey, look, there was a 1 in 4 billion chance, being mature here, okay, not being mature. There is a 1 in 4 billion chance that you are here, okay? Guess what? That does make you special. Now it's time for you to take control of the gifts that you've been given and not let your mind hold you back, right?
Yep.
I don't, and again, when you watch the style of play and then you look at the substance that's behind it, because of the way I know that I'm a completely different person than I was when I was that age, Lanny.
Yeah.
Completely different.
I agree.
I feel like I've always, my heart for the most part, has been in the right place to try to help others.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe, a little defensive in my younger years, not knowing how to handle situations with no life experience. But I can tell you, as I matured and was around people that were mature, all right, and showed how to handle situations, it crafted me into a better person. So I don't know if an interview or, 3 months of an interview. We're calling, I don't know if that's a fair stipulation to put on somebody that was battle tested with substance like the Levis kid.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, I wasn't there. I'm just giving an alternate viewpoint. I'm not taking up for him.
Mm-hmm.
But and these people do a lot. I mean, they go through the extremes. They interviews. They do their homework. I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm saying that maybe you take a guy that's only played 13 games versus a guy that did what he did with the team that he did it with.
Career.
I'm a little concerned
but
that
part of the Florida thing
was the issue.
Part of the Florida thing, though, is you had a head coaching change.
Sure.
So that's got something to do with the Richardson thing,
100%.
to where Levitz has had more consistency there.
No problem.
Without change.
No problem.
Quickly before we go off, let me ask you this and just get your take. I'm seeing with ESPN, a number of teams are declining the 4th and 5th year option on some players.
Yeah.
Is that because they're seeing that we can basically replace that person at less money, and we don't have to re-sign everybody we've got an option on to continue to be successful?
So inflation happened in pro sports years ago with inflated salaries, right? Now, when I say inflated, I don't mean that they're not worth what they're being paid.
Mm-hmm.
Your ability to perform the task that you're able to do and the difficulty in replacing you is what generates your salary, okay, or the money that you make, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those are the two things that dictate how much money you make. It's not how many degrees you got, right? It's not this up here, that up there, or I'm entitled to it. All right, it's the value you bring and the degree of difficulty in replacing you. And what they're finding is, I believe, to your point, which is a great point, and it's something I'd love to hear Juju's take on too, is that 4th and 5th year in the NFL with the beating that the bodies take,
right,
and the quick decline, that sometimes it may be a better option to go get a player that has value that you may pay a little less for to start off with, but then give you the same productivity because they're on the field more than the one that is paid the 4th, 5th year option that's not on the field a whole lot.
Go back to the same comment that you made. When you look at it, you're finding that we're not just doing things because that's the way we've always done it. The NFL was so bad I'm going to hold on to this banged-up player for another 3 years instead of replacing him with a younger player.
Right.
And that's why these players can't stay on the field.
Right.
It's because they're out there too long. I'm not trying to take any paydays away from anybody, but I'm trying to be realistic.
That's not what you
mean.
The
NBA is going through the same thing because they won't allow these high school kids to come in. They're keeping veterans on the bench so they can make their money, but yet they're not – because the union wants to do that, but they're not making the same contribution that this younger kid could make. I want the player that can make the largest contribution to the team. And I would be the same way. If I can't play at the level that somebody else can that you bring in, I don't need to be there.
Right.
Not just because I've been there.
Right. And there is a level of, respect and a level of not entitlement, but, loyalty to people that have given.
To a point.
Right, that's what I'm saying. And can you find balance in that to keep the locker room the way it needs to be without destroying it with someone that's been there and stable and brings a lot of value there, all right? Or is it just time to move on to the locker room, whatever happens in there? So it's kind of like the Freddie Freeman thing,
Yes,
Still don't like Freddie being gone. All right, he's like the greatest guy ever, right?
But from an organizational standpoint, it did make sense.
Right.
And you're seeing it now.
Evolved, right.
Yeah.
And I'm still very critical of losing Freddie Freeman, but with what's going on the field, in Swanson, right? But what's going on, you can see things materialize. So it wasn't as big an impact as maybe what
it was a shock factor initially.
Yeah, it was. I really believe that what we are seeing in the NFL. And I'll leave it this because I know we got to go. I think we're seeing enhancement of focus on quality and value because of the XFL and the USFL.
They're trying to bring that blend closer now than they used to.
I think with the amount of money that individual investors can put into those two organizations, okay, in those two leagues, They can't rival the NFL yet. All right? And there is substantial difference when we watch. We see XFL, they love to play football. They're out there playing as hard as they can. Coaches are having a great time. Bob Stoops, even though his team's not winning, he's having a ball.
Yeah.
Skip Holtz, all these guys, right? USFL the same way, okay? But I really think that the NFL's like, okay, these are kind of like little baby brothers over here that are a lot younger, but we can start seeing them grow a little bit. We need to pick our game up a little bit to mirror, the growth, right? And what I mean by that is it's not necessarily from a league or an organization, but from an individual player perspective. There's a lot less shenanigans in the XFL and USFL and a lot less outspokenness about things than there is in NFL.
One of the things that hurt athletics, business, any jobs, and you may not agree with this, to me, is lack of competition because it doesn't push you to do the best that you can do.
Yeah, one thing, like a couple of weeks ago I was in training, world's opened back up and, went out for some training in what they call due diligence meetings, with new products and innovations and things that have come into the financial world, right? Getting updates, listening to managers, we're in kind of a little bit crazy time, right? And so the point is I'm trying to make sure that I am, staying aware, improving myself, because there is competition out there, in the field, right? And I want to make sure that the things that I try to do, just like the NFL players, NBA, it's trying to separate myself from the competition, or I'm just like everybody else and just kind of blend in the woods.
Yep.
And the point of that is I saw that a lot in the draft this year with what the players landing to me. A majority of them looked like they were trying to do. They were trying to make sure that they were educated about the process, that they, understand, what's in front of them. They're going to go experience it, who to be around, who not to be around. I just got a lot of really good things to say about this year's draft.
I think it's good to see some maturity, and looks like some of the athletes that are coming out now have a less of a feeling of entitlement than they used to, which is good for the league.
Yeah, I think that might be a trend that, like you're saying, may be starting to go the other way.
That's good for everybody.
It's about time.
Good for everybody
It's
involved.
about time. All right.
Have a great day. See you probably on Thursday sometime. Bye.